Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm going to use a word, and I want you to think about what comes to your mind when I say this word. The word is a retreat. Retreat. What do you think of? And I'm not talking about, back in the, colonial days where, one army member, retreat. No, I'm talking about when you go on a retreat or even ponder that, where you work on yourself and maybe heal from certain things, empower yourself. Hey, could be spa retreat. You go for a weekend or whatever, but essentially you're working on yourself. She offers those, and I just learned that she does them virtually as well, virtual retreats to work on you. She's a spiritual life coach and a hypnotherapist and so much more. She's back with us. Rhea Maceris is on the program. Welcome, Rhea. How you doing?
Hello, Steve. It's great to be here. I'm doing good.
I have to tell you, last time we got together, we started talking about the in-person retreat where you are in Sedona, Arizona.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. As I'm driving home, I'm thinking, now what would that be like if I did that? Go to Sedona, beautiful place, never been there, always heard. What a great place for a retreat. And how would it work with Rhea? I'm not even kidding. I'm not, because I said Sedona's on my mind. And I was thinking,
mention that, yes.
Right? I'm thinking how it all works, like how often I would see you, how often we would have sessions, what type of sessions there would be, how much downtime to enjoy Sedona, where could you stay, all of that. This is what I was thinking of. And I wanted to ask you all about that today.
Perfect. So yes, great question. First of all of the retreats I offer virtually and or in person are always personalized. So point being is we would have a conversation. I would learn about you and get your objectives, your desires, what you're wishing, what type of support you need, and get all that cleared. And then I would create a plan for you. So if, for example, if you wanted to come to Sedona, I would design it. Generally, it's 2 or 3 sessions a day for 3 or 4 days. Again, it's all personalized. And so the objective would, and all of them are holistic in nature, meaning that we're going to deal with your spiritual, your emotional, and your physical. So getting out on the land is part of the physical. I have yoga that I offer if that's desired. Again, it's all personal. I have creativity that I offer. And the emotional sessions are done in my home office, which is about 12 minutes from Cornville. So just to put that out there, we're in the Sedona area. And then the personal, I do an opening on the land to set the intentions, to connect with the land and be in the vortex energy that I imagine you probably heard about. Since you haven't been here, you need to experience it.
Put me on some red rock.
Personalized.
Put me on some red rock and help me meditate. I'd be the happiest guy on the planet.
And I'm glad you mentioned meditating, because I believe that if we're not taking time to go within and access all of our amazing resources, what a waste of space, honestly. So I'm an advocate of going within, using the hypnotherapy to look at any old beliefs that may be still lingering, or any changes you want to make, feelings you want to get in touch with. So, and as we've talked about, and it continually comes up with my clients over and over again, this level or this idea that we have that we are less than or not good enough, which if we're carrying that, guess what we're going to create? So that not often, but almost, I could say that's pretty much in every retreat to some extent, looking at that and realizing, first of all, it's not your truth. I believe we're all an amazing piece of art made by God, Goddess, Creator, whatever you want to consider that in your world. And I help you find you, to put it in simple terms.
So when we talk about the hypnotherapy, is that always part of a, call it an in-person retreat? I guess it could be part of the virtual retreat as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, because I believe connecting with our inner resources, as I mentioned, It's a life, I believe it's life changing when you start to acknowledge all that you are within,
Mm.
especially right now, Steve, with the world the way it is. I mean, so much is happening, so much is changing. And my hope and desire is that all of these changes are coming up so we can see them to change them. All of these crises and challenges that are happening, I'm hoping that they're coming up so we can change them. And so it's looking at yourself instead of what's going on in the world. Choosing to be, let me put it this way, choosing to be your first priority in a healthy, selfish way.
Not selfish. Used to think it was, and that's where I
Thank
went.
you.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
I went wrong. I admit it. That's what I did. I thought, I'm not gonna take care of me because I gotta, I got everything going on here. I gotta
Thank you.
worry
Because
about making
who's
money.
going to if you don't?
Right. Right. Nobody loves you more than you. It's the truth. It is, or it should be that way. So
Yes.
let's look at an in-person getaway retreat. Do you do the hypnotherapy in the beginning to sort of like a mechanic on a car, lift up the hood? Let's see what we got going on in here. Let's see what makes the car tick, i.e., somebody's mind. Is that where it starts, and then you move from there?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm going to do an opening on the land first, and that's to set
Okay.
the intentions. I mean, there's power, such power in being out in open land. I believe it allows us to really stretch and become more of the truth of who we are. So that's the beginning to open us up energetically, right? And then, yes, the first session is generally diving within and getting some insight from within. And the thing, the one of the sessions that I do is so empowering because it literally allows you to connect with your soul's wisdom, your spirit's wisdom, whatever that means in your world, that we all have that within us. And so this allows a direct connection to get guidance and support from within. That is invaluable, I believe.
Doesn't that go back to maybe we've talked about this before, where it's all in us? We have it. Everything we need is inside to heal, to figure it out, to go with your gut in terms of intuition, how to make a decision, which way. It's all there, but we don't know how to access this amazing thing going on inside here.
That's where I come in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes. I'm like your middle person, I guess you would say, to connect to that world.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, I
And
had a client yesterday who I saw her 2 years ago, and fortunately my schedule changed and I was able to see her while she was in town. And she told me that the inner journey that we did 2 years ago still comes up in her mind daily as a reminder of that power that she holds within her.
I'll bet a lot of this stuff people never forget. Like I remember the first hypnotherapy session I ever had. Need to have more. I remember the first Reiki session and what it did and how I felt. And I'm speaking for me. I don't know if other people feel the same exact way, but it makes a
So,
mark on you.
so do you remember the feelings of it? Do you remember the cognitive part? What part comes up for you? I'm curious.
Hypnotherapy.
Yes, when you
Okay.
were doing it. Yes.
Yeah. The emotional aspect of it, the little bit of closure that came from it. And that was just one session, the first one. Um, More understanding, like the pieces all coming together
Mm-hmm.
about, and again, I've shared when I had that session before we met, it was I knew I wanted to go back to my childhood, which where it all begins for most of us.
Yes.
Um, what I was identifying, I kind of knew, didn't really, wasn't 100%, but it made it come clear in that hypnotherapy session. And I confronted myself as a child, and yeah, it was definitely emotional, but impactful.
Well, and something else that allows Imagine Getaways to be different than other retreat companies in Sedona is that I am your guide throughout the time you're here. I'm doing your sessions with you for support. We can go deeper and deeper and deeper within.
Yep.
Whereas and I worked with five different retreat companies in Sedona at this point. And the difference is that generally, and of course I'm speaking generally, some are different, but for the most part, you will meet with one practitioner and then you will meet with 5 or 6 different practitioners during your time to get a variety of modalities, which is beautiful in its own self. However, I believe going deeper and building that trust and that connection with one person allows you to really, really benefit and connect with your truth on a deeper level.
So let's talk about the practitioners, because I wasn't aware. I thought it's when somebody's with you, it's you. So you introduce other people into the mix?
Other retreat companies work like that. So I've worked with 5 different retreat companies in Sedona. And the way they run is you will meet with one person and then you meet, and again, they're all personalized as well. However, the beauty of working with me is that I am your guide throughout for the safety and the comfort and the ease and the depth. So for example, like if you would meet with one practitioner and then you go to the next one, the common response is you would want to tell your story over and over again, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but you want them to understand where you are so they can help you, right? So with me, the story's been told. And part of what I support is letting go of your story and be in the present moment. So instead of having to tell it over and over again, and nothing wrong with that, but for me, I have found that this way seems to support that depth that I want to offer and that truth that I offer.
1,000,000,000%. And you have, I call it limited time. If it's in person, 3-4 days, why do you want to keep going over the same stuff? Like, I don't want to. I don't. I don't find that's productive. It's okay if you change practitioners. I'm talking generally. Now you got to reset things, but so fantastic. You know what it feels like to me? It's like you're somebody's friend.
Thank you. That's what I think like that.
Yeah. So, you're walking the journey with them. Like, I'm thinking about seeing my friend, John. He's in Orlando and, I work with him as well. But I've gone down there and just hung out at his place. And so, we talk about stuff as well. I don't know, call therapy or, even work wise or just viewpoints and things like that. It's kind of the same thing with you. So I'm going to see Rhea in Sedona, and just like John in Orlando, the area. So you can make suggestions on where to go for dinner. You can make suggestions on where to stay. All of that. Exactly. Plus, you help somebody heal and move their life forward at the same time, which is fantastic.
Exactly. And I have a client that she's coming for a 3-day retreat in June, and I'm helping her. I went to 2 different Airbnbs this week just to check and make sure that I felt they would be safe and perfect for her. So it's from the moment we set this up is personalized, and I'm here to help.
Wow. See, I didn't know. I knew you could make recommendations, but I didn't know you went that deep into making sure that.
Well, and this is a woman who I've worked with for about over a year, several years ago. And I really, really, I do become friends with them, and I do have a special place in my heart for them. And I really know that she really wants to make changes. And that to me is my favorite person to work with, when they're ready and they're willing and they're just ready to go. And that's how we get the best conclusions. Yeah.
I got to believe nobody's going to travel to Sedona unless they're fairly serious about making changes. Without going into too many details, because it is confidential, in her situation, you saw her previously, a number of years back, and now she's back. What has changed? What is she looking to accomplish? What, picking up from where she left off? Can you give us a little insight?
Sure. I initially met her about 5 years ago, and she came through and did a retreat, and we did 2 sessions together, formed a connection, and then she signed up So essentially I work with people over time. And so then she lives in Massachusetts. So she signed up for 2 virtual retreats. So I
Okay.
worked with her for 6 months and then another 6 months. And so what's going on with her currently is she's going through a divorce right now.
Okay.
So she's coming to get some support, to get some understanding, she wants to be in with her soulmate, essentially. So I want to help her navigate going through a divorce and then help her manifest her dream relationship.
Okay. So yeah, definite life change precipitated this
Yes.
whole thing. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when we say virtual retreat, now we talked about the in-person Sedona retreat.
Yes.
Let's look at the virtual. Obviously, there's a difference. You're not
Yes.
traveling. But
Yes.
how does that look?
So basically, again, it's personalized, and we would call and talk, and I would set up a possible proposal, and I would send it, and then we literally change it until it feels perfect for that person, because everyone is unique, everyone is special in their own way, everyone
Yeah.
has their own wounds, as we know. And so again, I want them to feel comfortable with what I'm intuitively and or consciously coming up with for them. So then when the agreement is made on the plan, then we will meet ideally we will meet 1 time a week, the same time every week, just to make it simple. We meet via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, whatever works for them. And then we meet for generally 2 hours. And then I actually give them homework. Like one of the first things that happens after a Zoom session is I ask them, start to look at how you speak to yourself, like we've talked about, and the importance of that. So they have a week to really look at and start discerning. And even the big question, why would I not be kind to myself? Why aren't I being kind to myself? And so they have a week to let that marinate and digest. And then we meet. So generally it's for 3 months, sometimes 6 months. Sometimes they'll sign up again, depending on how deep they want to go. Because I take them from looking at the foundation of their emotional and their humanness to connecting with their higher self, their inner wisdom, and then manifesting. So there's like 3 different levels to it.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I want to go back to what you said a second ago about the intuition that you use, your intuition when working with somebody. I think we may have skimmed that once, like way back. But tell me how that works, because I'm intrigued for sure.
Well, thank you. It's such a great question. And honestly, I've been told since I was a child in my family, they would ask me, how do you know those things? How do you know those things? I had my wounds and my challenges, and I was a victim. I'm not by any means saying I came in like, knowing everything. But so I had this balance of being confused. And again, I was a victim several times. I was raped. There's a whole story there. And yet I had this part of me that just kind of knew things. So to bring it current time, I have clients continually telling me, how did you know that? Or how did you sense that? Or how? And so it's something that I fortunately have had mirrored back to me as a reminder that I'm in touch with a part of themselves.
Do you feel that when you meet somebody and you talk a little bit, and maybe they're just starting their first virtual retreat, let's just say it there, that you have a little bit of insight ahead, where you're because of your using intuition, you're kind of getting it even before they're getting it?
Oh, I've had dreams about my clients before they arrive. Oftentimes, to put it into another kind of a humorous aspect, I've actually worn the same color clothes that they're wearing. And like that color spoke to me in the morning, and I'll put it on, and so there's this intuition that's at play even beyond what I'm aware of.
Wow.
And Steve, I believe we are intuitive.
I agree.
However, we're not taught to access it and or to trust it. So that's another beautiful piece I offer my clients. I want you to recognize you're intuitive. Absolutely. I want you to recognize the beauty of that, and you have that. And I like create the highways or the avenues how to access it and use it.
I would just do a retreat just for that. I would come there all weekend long just to, work on harnessing your intuition, realizing your gut feeling. I had a situation that happened over the weekend, very impactful in many different levels, including financially. And it goes back a year and a half, and my gut was telling me something, and I didn't listen to it. I wasn't getting the red light. It was sort of getting the green to the yellow. But I didn't, it was just no, this is reasonable. It's okay. It's okay. It wasn't, and I just found out it's going to resolve itself, and I believe it's all going to work out. Fairly confident there, but I should have listened. And that was one. I'm gonna give myself a pass on that one because of the dynamics involved. It wasn't a hard red light. It was more of a just lower level. There's other ones where it's full blown. Red lights are going off, stop signs. Don't do this. And of course, I've been there too, where I ignored it, major life changes, and I don't want to say I screwed up. I learned from it, but just learning to listen to yourself, it's a big deal.
Yes, and to trust what's coming to you. Trust is a big one. And when we're in challenging dynamics as children, like we've talked about, we're not really taught how to trust.
Yeah.
And that's another piece that we dive into, because I believe trust is an internal, building that foundation within, accessing your inner wisdom and working from within and literally building that higher vibrational foundation within so you can trust whatever's happening out here.
Isn't it funny?
Trying to trust out here. It's almost like we try to do it the opposite way, right?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, 100%. You're not trusting yourself, but now you're in the outside world, and I'm going to trust you, and we're going to have this relationship for the rest of our lives, and I'm going to trust you, and yes, you've been around. I just met you, but I trust you, but you don't even trust yourself.
Yes.
So how do you know if that other trust is real?
And trusting yourself. There's another interesting piece that often comes up about a lot, like we talked about last time we read there, you were reading that there's this quote epidemic of aloneness with people right now.
Yes.
And so I was reflecting upon that after you mentioned that, and I was thinking from the perspective, if we can't be comfortable being alone with ourselves, how can we expect someone else to want to be around us? So that's an area that we work with and look at and build, and finding comfort with being you, just being you.
That's a big one. And that was the Surgeon General talked about the epidemic of loneliness, and especially, and you wouldn't, we have just about a minute left, but you wouldn't think that it was younger guys in their 20s and their 30s are like the highest level. You would think it'd be the other way around. Stuff you learn. So if we want to look at a retreat, whether it's virtually or in beautiful Sedona, what do we do? How do we learn more?
Please visit my website at imaginegetaways.com. And I would be happy to talk with you and create a perfect plan for you.
See, I look at it this way. I have a friend in Sedona.
You do, like, Tomodachi.
Yes, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, we talked about that last time. That's the Japanese word for friend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And yes. I derailed because I thought it was the toy Tamagotchi from the 90s, which we later learned the spelling's different.
Yeah, or very similar sounding, though. I mean, we're talking Japanese here, so
right, exactly.
I give you credit for knowing a word that was even like it.
I think that's the only one I know next to sushi. That's the only Japanese word I got. But all good. Rhea, always great talking with you, and learned a lot today, in general, but also about the process of when you do a retreat, and it's fascinating. Definitely got to learn more. Yeah.
I'm delighted to do what I do. I'm meant to do this. I really believe that.
There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, your passion, your energy shines through. that you want to help people.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
You too. We'll talk
See you
soon.
next time. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.